All the Money in the World is directed by Ridley Scott. You know, the guy who directed Alien, Blade Runner, Gladiator, The Martian, Black Hawk Down, just to name a few great films. He's also directed these stinkers. Ridley Scott has been very hit and miss in his most recent few films, and this year he brings us a film based on the true event of the kidnapping of John Paul Getty's grandson, John Paul Getty III. This is a fascinating tale about the richest man in the world being extremely tight-fisted with his money, even when it comes to saving the life of his favourite grandson. Now, before we proceed, I notice we do have a couple of elephants in the room. First of all, Kevin Spacey was the original actor poised to play John Paul Getty, and they had actually finished filming before that thing happened. He's gone now, Plumber's in, and that's all I'm going to say about that one. As for that second elephant, Michelle Williams and Mark Wahlberg had quite the wage difference for coming back to reshoot the Spacey scenes. Now, whilst Mark clearly had more scenes to shoot with Plumber, the wage gap is still astounding. But as a wise man once said, that's all I gotta say about that. Now back to the review. As stated, Christopher Plummer had to come in to take the role of JP Getty and shoot it all in 9 days, and he does a very good job with this, considering the lack of prep time, and he had a short shooting schedule to nail this role. However, I was not sure if I was supposed to hate the character or not. Yes, there are some moments where he does something, and all I can think of is "oh, F you," but he strikes me as too frail, and never really gives the impression he is rubbing the money in our faces. And in some scenes, he plays it different to how the dialogue sounds. Sometimes I would hear him deliver a line, and I would think there should have been more passion or emotion in it. And at times, I found myself wondering what Spacey's delivery would have been like. I just don't hate the character, and I feel like the script wanted me to. Though to be perfectly honest, he's hardly in the film. In fact, it never really feels like there is a central character. And that's one of my big problems with this film, is the lack of focus. The first half hour feels boring and appears to rush many story beats in order to get the plot moving. There's a whole flashback sequence between Getty and his grandson involving an object, which does have payoff, but that whole section is over so fast I could not get invested in the payoff later on. Clearly, most of the film was supposed to revolve around Gail Harris, played by Michelle Williams, and her struggle to free her son, but it took me so long to get invested in her character, and at times, especially in the beginning, she just came across as a little bit annoying. That's not taking anything away from the performances, as I think both Williams and Wahlberg produced fine performances, though both have done much better work in the past. I feel like this film does not quite live up to the expectations set out with those actors. Thankfully, it does pick up after an hour, and I started to invest in the performances and the characters. Mark Wahlberg plays Fletcher Chase, an ex-CIA operative who is tasked by Getty Sr. to track down his grandson. I love Wahlberg in these dramatic roles, as he proves he can act. However, aside from a scene confronting Getty Sr. towards the end of the film, he just really blends to the background for the majority of the film, and he plays a part, but again, I found it hard to invest in his character, as it was quite bland. Now, thankfully, there is a gem in this film, and I'm not talking about Getty Jr., played by Charlie Plummer, the kid that we're supposed to care about and want to be saved, because he was just annoying and lacked any kind of character development to make us care about him. No, the one character I liked and actually cared about, and who actually made me want Junior to live, was Cinquata, played superbly by Romain Duris. Amid all the controversy surrounding this film, this guy's performance actually gave me something to care about in the film, and he's one of the kidnappers, yet he becomes one of the more likeable characters in this film. He goes from ransomer to protector over the course of the film, still involved in the kidnapping, but he low-key is trying to help Junior towards the end. Honestly, every time he came up on screen, I was invested in him. I thought he was just playing nice to keep Paul in check, but he literally says to his mother, "I don't want Paul to die." Upon researching this as well, it turns out Cinquata is actually based off one of his real captors. Unbelievable. A captor actually giving a damn about the hostage is not just a Hollywood dream. That is actually a little comforting. I've never heard of this Duris, and I doubt many others will be familiar with him, but he was by far and away my MVP in this film. Sadly, besides that plot point, I just found it difficult to get invested in much at all in this film. The pacing was inconsistent, and the performances besides Duris, whilst good, did not really leave an impression. And while I don't hate the snobbish rich guy even a little, and I don't care for the kidnap victim for about 70% of the film, that's a sign the film failed to leave an impact. Credit where it's due though. I love the set design, and the cinematography in every Getty scene you've seen is really well done. The phone calls between Cinquata and Gale are probably my favourite moments for how claustrophobic and tense they feel, and the ending was satisfying enough to make me leave the theatre relatively happy. Overall though, besides some good shots and a single great performance, this film is just forgetful. Not the worst, but it's just so bland, and considering the star power and the story this is based on, and the director that it has, this should have been a lot better than what it was. If there's a moral in this film, it's that you can find compassion even in the meanest souls. But any message of greed and money controlling us just feels really half-baked. If it wasn't for the controversies surrounding this film, it would fade into memory very quickly. A lukewarm cup of tea is what this is getting. Now, all the money in the world, has everyone seen it? Drop your opinions in the comment below, and subscribe for more reviews coming all the time. This is the TheSHPodcast signing off.